All right. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. And thank you once again for joining us for our recent series of GPT related optimizations for practices. We're so glad that you decided to spend the afternoon with us and some of my favorite people. Just as a reminder, if you are new to our series, we've been holding a series of experts related to what practices need to be thinking about when it comes to the evolution of GPT and how this is impacting patient acquisition and patient conversion. So this series has been a wonderful addition to our partners, and I've had a great time meeting with my friends. We're going to actually mix it up a little bit this time, and instead of having individual presentations, my friends Nick and Seth and I are going to open it up to more of a conversation fireside chat. So a little bit more on that in a moment. But before we jump in, just a quick reminder that we do have a Q&A session or Q&A opportunity while we're talking. If something we say strikes your fancy or it causes you to have an additional question, encourage you to submit that in the Q&A, and we'll address that at the end of our session together or even live during the session. So we just appreciate you participating and being a part of it. So I want to welcome to the table today my friends Nick and Seth. So just as mentioned, to kick us off, we're going to make this a little bit more conversational. Um, I'll let Nick introduce himself and then Seth in terms of our areas of expertise. So first off, Care Sherpa, as you know, we support patients on their elective medical journey. We're very consumer focused when it comes to what are the areas impacting a consumer's expectations to move forward with a practice. So I'll be speaking from the perspective of what we hear from patients. Nick?
Yep, my name's Nick Fromfelder. I am the CEO of SureOak, and we're heads down on this. We're all about all things organic authority and getting inbound leads and trying to acquire more patients from our web properties. Do you want me to dive in, Jessica?
Let's have Seth say hi real quick. Let's see if we can get him out. There we go. Off
Yeah,
mute.
he's got on mute.
Hi, everybody. I'm Seth Turnoff. Jessica, thanks so much for having me. Nick, it's great to see you. I am a co-founder and managing partner of a group called Custom Medical Marketing, or CMM for short. We are a patient acquisition firm leveraged with consumer data and hyper-targeted marketing to attract and acquire the ideal future patients for your specialty.
As Nick gets sets up to share, he brought some data to help us guide the discussion. But you can see why I brought these powerhouses to the discussion in terms of their areas of expertise. And so excited to jump in.
Awesome. Yeah, this is fun because Jessica, Seth, you're two of my favorite people, so this is very easy. And when you said, "Hey, we can make it a fireside chat," I was very relieved. I didn't have to talk on my own the whole way. So this is fun. So how to get more leads from ChatGPT? I just want to take everyone through a little bit of who I am, the journey that I've been on. I was very lucky back in 2013, which doesn't seem that long ago to me, but that seems ages ago, probably in today's world of AI. But I got to be the chief revenue officer and co-founder of a healthcare IT company called Clockwise MD. We now know it today as schedulation. That was not a term that existed in 2013. And at Clockwise, we had a revelational insight that is nothing today, but back then was medical providers were undervaluing their digital assets. And we found out that if we just put a simple call to action, and this was mostly for ERs and namely urgent cares, if we put a widget with a call to action, skip the waiting room, we were able to increase conversions of patient acquisitions by over 50%. So while everything in the hospital, in the urgent care, in the clinic was everything about operational internal focus, no one was looking at what is this digital experience and how can that be important. The problem is everyone figured that out as well. There were registration, it was galore, right? And so the trust journey totally changed, right? So the trust was all about convenience. Can you see me now? And then now, if we fast forward into like, hey, what was like 5 years later was, hey, why should I trust you? And then we saw the rise of, content-based marketing, account-based marketing. SEO was the hot thing, and paid ads. Seth, you know all this stuff too. So now that we're moving into this environment now with AI, we're like, why should I click on your widget? And how do I even find you? And what was that journey? Did I get to your homepage? Did I go to a specific service page? Did I go to a blog? So it really, really changed. And so that's kind of like framing where I've been, and that's going to shape a lot of the conversation the way I think. So at Sherpa, we get asked these questions all the time, and that's probably the reason you signed up for this webinar. Is like you have these are just three of the questions. You probably have 20 of them. And Seth, Jessica, I don't know if you have other questions that you would add to this list, but like, how do I get AI to give me leads? What's the secret? What's the hack to AI mentions? And what is hype and what is real? I got to tell you, I think about this a lot, and I wanted to be an honest broker when I came onto this when I agreed to do this seminar. There is a lot of a lot of vendors in my seat that are selling you that they know it all, and that's just not possible. Dario Amodei, Elon Musk, Sam Altman, they all say we don't actually know how these LLMs work. We just know that we invest billions of dollars in them and we make them bigger, they get better. Right. So if the founders of these LLMs don't know what's going on, how are we supposed to know? So all I'm going to say is at SureOak, Seth, I know you're doing some of the same work. Jessica, I know you're figuring out. We test a lot of things, and this is what we know today. This all might change tomorrow. So I'm just going to be really honest about that, self-aware. A lot of what we're saying, this is what's working now. But there are some core principles I want to point out today that these will work. It's like Warren Buffett. Like I invest in stocks with a long-term view. That's the exact same way that we approach organic and inbound leads. All right. Anything you guys would add to that before I jump in?
No, but I gotta say, Nick, this is one of the many reasons that I appreciate working with you is because of the accountability and the honesty and like this is what we know right now. And anytime someone comes to the table, and I'm not saying there's a bunch of shade balls out there, but when they're like, "No, we're the experts. We know we're the end all be all," it's kind of like, "Oh,
Yep.
oh, okay." So I like it, Nick. Thank you.
Hey, appreciate you, brother.
We think of it as
All
the
right.
brave new frontier, right, Nick? So it's
Brave new
one
frontier.
that it is. I mean, I said this in a prior webinar too, that people are thinking like this AI world of how patients are using GPTs is that, oh, my cheese has moved. It's the same cheese, right? You still have to present yourself. It's just now in a different platter. And the platter's probably gotten bigger because now you've got SEO, you got GPT, you got, all the other angles, right? And so it's not an either or, but it's an and. And
Yeah,
so,
there's more cheese. There's more
yep,
cheese, and there's shredded, there's slices, there's chunks.
gourmet, yeah.
There's all different kinds of cheese. But look, the fact remains the same. And then Nick, I'm gonna let you get back to it. Marketing, whether it's traditional, digital, or AI related, it's all about showing up where the people who need you
Yep.
are. So if that can be our foundation for like, okay, this is what it is, I think that's a strong foundation to build on.
Yeah, no, we're going to be repeating that constantly. There are some fundamentals that we got to focus on. So I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. We're here in the South. We have this term, don't overcook the grits. And that's a little bit what's happening right now in this market. People are, what game am I playing now that AI and LLMs are here? Like, what is this game? And so we have these new strategies. It used to be just SEO. But now, and that was, hey, I want to get in the top 5 search results because you have your ads at the very top of the Google page. And then we have the organic results. And those have like up to 30% click through rate. And if we get down to number 5, there's more like a 8% click through rate. So that was the game that we were playing. But now with AI, we have these different goals and these different acronyms. We have AEO, Answer Engine Optimization. How do I get cited by the LLMs? And we have GEO, Generative Engine Optimization. So when I'm having a conversation with ChatGPT, how do I get it to mention my brand? And at the end of the day, it's just search. It's just search. And what these engines are doing to actually give the customer the actual content that they're looking for when they actually are sitting down and typing on their computer. So,
Nick, hang on.
and
Before you move forward, can you go back to that slide? I just want to ask a question. Okay, so when we're talking about Geo, AEO, or SEO, do each one of these outcomes do they have a specific playbook when it comes down to implementing a strategy to show up with?
yes, yeah, absolutely. So like the overviews. So like if you've ever been in Google nowadays, you notice when you type in the search results, and we'll get into more of this. But the idea is like there's a snippet that the LLM is now giving you. It's a very what would you say, punctuated answer to the query, very
Yep.
specific, right? The idea is when we write content for those queries, we want to have punchy, like very snippet friendly content on our website. So that would be like an example of one of these strategies that you do. The other one is just like, I need to get my brand all over the internet on all different types of content so that when I'm having conversations, no matter what the conversation is, my brand shows up as like an authority on that. So those are the type of strategies that, but at the end of the day, what I'm saying is, it's just your authority. It's
Yep.
are you consistently telling what you're good at? And these things should naturally happen. And yes, there are strategies, but yeah, 100% right. At the end of the day, it's about the right content to the perfect customer. And that's what this next slide was saying. Exactly what you were saying, Seth. An organic lead is the result of great content finding the perfect customer. And what has really changed is the gatekeeper has changed. It was so think of, I always like to think of like digital marketing as like economics. There is a supply of content that we have, but the really on the other end is demand. Like what is the demand? And the gatekeeper in the middle, which has been Google, it was an algorithm. That was the old one, right? This is the old model. The algorithm had 200 ranking factors. They worked for 15 years to perfect this, right? So everything from like the quality of your website, the quality of your backlinks, all of it. And if you want to, I provided a link down here if you actually want to see what each of those are. Google doesn't release it, but we figured it out as SEO practitioners. So like, hey, what are these ranking factors? What works? What doesn't? And Google does a great job getting rid of like the spammy things, the things that used to work, like keyword stuffing, all of that stuff. They got rid of that, and so the algorithm became um, very good about matching content supply with search demand. But what's happened? Well, the algorithm, Sergey Brin, he has already said the algorithm is now just been dumped into LLM. There is no algorithm anymore. So what we have is an LLM, ChatGPT or Gemini, Anthropic's Claude or Elon Musk Grok, right? These are the biggest supercomputers we've ever seen, multi-billion-dollar investments. And so now we have this brain that is like the smartest human or close to being the smartest human that's ever lived. Right. And that's what it's thinking. And so, like, what Google is trying to do is protect the search experience. So, how can I provide content that this human? So, I'm writing for robots because the robot wants to deliver to the human
Mhm.
the content that really is going to be the most pertinent, the most trustworthy. And so, what was happening now is these gatekeepers, they're our proxy for trust. So, like I was saying before at Clockwise, it was very easy to build that trust with a simple widget. Now it's all about like, well, why should I trust you? And why, how do I get ChatGPT to be my proxy of trust? It's like that referral. Like, what doctor is the best? I asked Seth, like, hey, who do I see for my hip replacement? Well, Dr. Jones, he's the best. That's the one that you got to go see. Well, now I'm like, my proxy for Seth is now ChatGPT,
And I
which
would
is
add,
very new.
too, Nick, we think about this about how patients as consumers are being retrained to ask these questions. So historically with SEO, we knew that I can optimize all day long for best fertility doctor, near me, best fertility doctor, St. Louis, right? Now, what's happened is the patients as consumers are, well, I have this condition, and I have this concern about budget. Who's my best provider? And it's not limited to just St. Louis, right? It's going to be a answering in a way that is going to take that local into account, but a much bigger game.
Oh, this absolutely. We're gonna get deep in that. So first, like I'm gonna dive right into that, but like the three major changes that I want to talk about here, there's 20 something major, major quantum shifts now that have happened. But what AI has done, it has changed search behavior, it has changed consumer behavior, just as you were referring to, Jessica. It has included social media as a part of what's happening. So like this is very new for us as an SEO agency. We have to worry about things like brand. We have to worry about social media. We have to worry about because
Trust and
that is actually what SEO was not really pulling in. The AI is. And the last one is AI content saturation. Like you'll be blown away how the internet is growing and how hard it is to now break out with your content. We'll dive into that. So the first one, Jessica, exactly what you were talking about is what is different now about the search. Like we have now taken this technology and we've totally changed the way that we interact with it. So in the old days in SEO, in the SERP, we would just do dentist near me, and we would get that traditional, Google search results, right? Now, like it went by pretty quick, but I have these conversations now instead of just a pithy, 3 to 5 word, what we call keywords in the search bar. Now it's 5 times longer. I mean, and people are, before they even go over to what we call the SERP, search engine result, it is now up to 20 different chats that will happen there before I ever transact on your web page. That is a huge shift.
Mhm.
And so what we're seeing is, okay, so what does that mean? So I don't need to worry about SEO anymore. Not at all. So what has happened? So everyone thought SEO would go away. We thought the Google experience would go away. It has only lost less than 1% of all traffic. Well, then which is it? Is ChatGPT eating all search, or is Google going to still dominate? The answer is both. The answer is both, right? Because now, if you ever notice Gemini or these AI overviews, people are flipping back and forth between traditional SERPs and chats. That's really interesting to me. So I think you've already seen this. Like before I ever go see somebody about my aching hip, I'm going to do a big research experiment on ChatGPT, and then I'm going to go to the search results. People are interchanging between the two. So what do you want? You want both. You want both. And how do we get both? So when I say both, I mean the search engine result and the chat mentions. Should I stop there? Any comments?
I just want to make a comment, and the rise of AI and AI search. I think that's what caused everyone to be like, "Oh, SEO is dead. It's all AI search." What do you think about? And this isn't a channel or a strategy that we ever use. What do you think AI search is going to do to pay per click?
That's a good question. So great question. So Google's already started experimenting with ads within chat itself.
Mhm.
What is that? Is that moral high ground? Is that a
Yeah.
cash grab?
Cash grab.
Tons of billions of dollars of their revenue comes from ads. So like they're not going to really give that up. So we will see ads at some point within these chats, but they're going to have to really call it out because the reason people love LLMs is because this is organic authority content, and so that's why people skip the ads
Yep.
or not all, right? But like they'll skip the ads and they'll go down to the organic results because those are the ones that are deemed most trustworthy by my trusted source, Google.
Yeah, and I
Whether
would
you
add
believe that or not, but that's the reasoning behind it. And they're in subscription model. So I think
that's it.
Seth, to answer your question, what's going to happen with the subscription models? Can they sell enough subscriptions to keep that?
Yeah,
Nobody knows.
who knows?
Nobody knows.
Yeah. And
Interesting.
it
Great answer, Nick. I knew you'd have the insight.
also it's going to be interesting. I had some prior guests from like Ratings MD and partner about the rise of how their content is being used. And you talked about it, Nick, right? It's a trust factor too. So we as consumers, we've already started to like, get in this environment and shift. I know personally, I start with a GPT before I go to Google now, right?
Yeah.
And so I might still go to Google, but I'm 99% of the time there. But it's the trust that I trust those results more because it's not fed to me, right?
Yes.
It's a public related score and not just a who Google wants to rank. Because we all know, let's be real, those of us in marketing, we know that it's been Google's game for a long time and we just had to pay for it, right? So if you
Mm,
magically you paid for Google search ads and then all of a sudden your SEO gets bumped too, right? And again, level
magic
playing.
how that happens.
It's amazing. So, and same, let's be real, it's in Meta as well, right? So this is all that. So I think that as a consumer, the trust that I have in what GPT serves me is already going to be a higher outcome. So I agree, it'll be interesting over time when we add in a paid component.
But
Mm,
consumers also know like when we're being sold to. And
Yeah,
for certain things like choosing a specialist, like that's not really a book now scenario. This is more of a research play
research.
where,
Mhm.
I don't want sponsored content. I want to know the capital T truth to
Mhm.
what it is I'm asking. Or I can dive deeper into, validated statistics and data related to what I'm looking for.
yeah, that trust one's different. Like, what do we trust content wise in AI, right? So, but I mean, that is a known issue. You also like what's happening with ads. You asked, Jessica, I put a note on here because I told you to remind me not to mention this, but as of right now, AI is not touching local. So if you notice, like dentists near me, like what we Googled before, that map, that four box, that is not being messed with. It is not good with geolocation data right now.
Mhm.
So keep doing your reviews, keep getting your Google business reviews. You have to do that. That is still super powerful, and there's not a real good alternative AI wise to replace that. Um,
Well,
I
that's
don't know
the
if
thing,
you
right?
ever
The
mess
the
with.
plate is bigger. We can't just say, oh, I'm just shifting to just GPT or just is now your plate. Unfortunately, marketers on call, right? You all know, darn it, now we have another strategy to think about, but that's the reality of it.
But every
Yes.
marketer who's on this call understands that there's not one universal source of marketing truth that you
Yep.
can just put everything into. It's a comprehensive play, and everything has a different nuance or strategy or outcome or maintenance
Yep.
that's required of it to get the outcomes that you want. You put them all together, and now you're cooking with heat, right?
Yeah, yeah. And so in the ads that are working, Seth, these local service ads, the Google guaranteed, those are still crushing. I think people on the traditional pay-per-click have seen a decline. I compete now with a lot of paid agencies. I focus more on organic. I've never seen more AI experts come out of the paid world back into the organic world than I ever have. Like people are shifting. So it's made my job a little bit more difficult. So,
Well, the
so
cream
anyway, so
rises.
focus on local, particularly as it matters to a lot of people's practices on here. That is so important. Let me see if I can advance the slide. Okay, so Jessica, you were alluding to this before. So how do I rank on both? So this is a fun exercise if you ever want to do it yourself. So you have your keyword. So like I'm using the example teeth whitening. So I want to rank for teeth whitening as a service for my dental practice. So that is my pillar keyword. And if I type, hey, ChatGPT, give me an SEO fan out, keyword fan out for teeth whitening, and what it does is really, really great, right? And this is the easy part. Writing the content's the hard part. But what it does is it breaks it down into subcategories. And these are just three of them. There's probably eight or so. But for teeth whitening, there's products, there's concern questions, and there's demographics. And this is what any good journalist would do. They would look for angles. They're looking for angles to write about. And I want to cover all the angles around teeth whitening. I can do it in one piece or I can do it in multiple pieces of content. And so if I'm like, hey, I want to write about the difference between the different products, strips, gels, toothpaste, pens, LED lights, professional grade services, right? That is a whole like great blog post I can write and it will help me rank around like, if I'm selling only mufflers, I want to write about the whole car. And
Mhm.
it just gives me more content authority from Google's point of view. So think about these angles when you're writing. This is hugely important. So any comments on that? So Jessica, you were nailing that. So like if
Yep.
I'm an orthopod, I want to talk about golfers. I want to talk about age demographics. I want to talk about all these specific things are happening in my locale. Because if I don't, I will talk about this also. ChatGPT is not going to give me credit. It's not
Agreed.
going to credit. If it's derivative content, if it's commoditized content, I'm not going to get credit. I got to be unique.
And one of the things that we've seen, so we've been working with some of our clients on a strategy. So again, remember, I don't do anything for Sherpa to help you all impact it, but I definitely can bring you the data to help you understand what on the actual consumer buying journey, what's top of mind. So we've been tracking how people are using GPT, and like we've double clicked on that with them and straight up asked, out of curiosity, what's the query you used or how did you find us? So one of the case studies that I've been highlighting in this series is an example of a fertility doctor that we work with
Mm.
where he found this really amazing success story. This woman came from New York to St. Louis, Missouri to come and see our fertility doctor. Well, how'd she get there? It was through GPT. How did she find them? It was because they had great content out there specific to her situation, specific to her condition, and then he spoke to her financial concerns. We also doubled on everything second opinion because of him wanting to be that second opinion provider. So all those things happened that he then popped and presented, right? So what did we learn from that? It was to your point, he right demographics, concerns, questions, and then how do I serve those needs? And it was very specific and detailed. And now where some of our content friends on the phone are probably like about falling out of their chair thinking about that's a lot of content to be hyper focused. And we believe maybe you can't cover the whole macro, but let's be very micro with like who is your ideal target. He was in this case, this fertility doctor was very defined of this is the audience that he knows he can serve very, very well, and we're seeing it come in.
I
No,
think I
so
think
good.
this exercise though, basically reverse engineering the fan out as like really looking at the ecosystem of what and who and the concerns. I think it gives the practitioner, right, kind of a real intentional 360-degree view of what they do. And looking at from the consumer standpoint, I think this only strengthens their brand when they can not only look at this with like real high visibility into all of the products and concerns and demographics, like these are the big three in my mind in terms of like what your future patients are like, what's going to get them. It's going to be one of those. It might be a combination. It might be all three.
Yep.
But to have an orthopod or to have a fertility doc really understand these components, I mean,
Yep.
that is brand building 101.
And Nick, we
Yeah,
talked
so
about
good.
this with
I've yet to
this.
read a marketing book where focus doesn't help. Right.
we we talked about this content writing to like give our friends that are following along at home like the top 5 things they can do today. And would you agree that if we just stopped the recording right now and ended the webinar, like if they just took this one away, like this is where you start, right? If you can only do one
Yeah,
thing,
no,
Fair.
that's
start
why we
here.
started with it. That's fair.
Yep.
That is absolutely fair. So, so hey, I hope we added value right away.
Yeah.
If anyone
Out
turned
of the
off the,
gate.
if people already turned off the the video. All right, next part. Big change, disruption number two,
Oh, this is a big
impact
one.
of social media. Okay, so the old model of Google was that it would crawl the entire website or the entire internet. It would index your site and it would give it some kind of domain authority and it would rank you as whether or not. What has changed now is this concept of pre-training and post-training of these LLMs. And so what the so LLMs are trained on all known data. We're basically out of data at this point to train these models. That's why these computers are so big. And guess what 80% of the web traffic is? Social media. And it's not just it, and they're LLMs, large language models, right? So not only are they reading, but they're watching video and they can digest it and it can be trained on video. So what has happened is, and I think you've already seen that, particularly Grok, since it XAI bought Twitter or X, right? What we've seen is when I actually do a query in one of these, it actually references social media data. And largely a lot Reddit because people are asking consumer type questions on Reddit. You might see the same on other review sites such as Clutch or I don't know, people are on WebMD. So like you know where these conversations are happening. So anytime where your customers are gathering, they're having conversations, it's getting mixed in with the training data and a part of the output. Um,
And real
so
quick, Nick, we know that the reason why LLMs are using, so Reddit is a great example. So many of our provider friends that are on this call probably haven't thought about Reddit. Very few of them that I know, my clients even claimed their own Reddit, handle, right? Or kind of been following the subs related to their content. But we know that LLMs love this because it is consumer driven conversation. It is unfiltered, it is unmasked, right? And so when you have another patient, right, this is the ultimate word of mouth. You have another patient going on Reddit and either putting you on blast, God forbid, or singing your praises. That's why the LLMs absolutely are using social media in a new way. And so we've been talking with some of our client partners. We monitor, that social listening to know, because if you're getting put on blast, I want my, team to know how to help recover from that issue, right? But
yeah,
if you flip it and now say, let's use this to our advantage and not only monitor and see what people are talking about, AKA, that's going to influence what great content I'm going to get out before my competitors do.
yeah, absolutely. I'm not saying go on Reddit. I'm saying go where your customers are talking.
Yep.
So go where your patients are
Yeah, be
talking.
part
So
of the
for us,
conversation.
like, I'm an SEO firm. Like we do mostly a lot of like business services, a lot of work like that. Reddit's kind of a scary place.
It is.
It's like
Talk about
there's a
Discord. That's
lot
a
of
whole
like
different.
garbage out there. A lot of my customers are on LinkedIn. So that's a lot of where like we'll post blogs there, and that's where we talk. But there are these sub communities where people are talking, and it's getting pulled into these results, and that's very very new. I'm going to ask for your feedback on this too, Seth. So how do I get into social media? Well, the most practical way is to keep your website dynamic and updated, and then to use the content. So if you're doing a blog or a video, put it on your website, and then make it travel.
Yep.
You can't be. It's the world of the omni channel. I mean, it used to be like I could pick one channel and I'd be fine. You at least probably have to have two or three. Facebook, Insta. Guaranteed your customers are there. Your patients are there, and they are having conversations there. Digital PR super important. LinkedIn, YouTube, they are there. So the idea is that we want to take this content. We don't copy and paste. That is a big no-no because you don't want your blog that you reposted on LinkedIn to outrank your website. You don't want that, but you want to like curate it so it can go over to that audience. So you want to change it up a little bit. Seth, you are a master at this stuff. So if you want to say anything like, hey, how social media has helped you personally. I mean, you've branded the mustache. I mean, I think you're like the only
Actually,
guy
it
that's
it
able
branded
to.
itself. Actually, I really had nothing to do with it. But thanks for noticing. So I think when it comes down to social, you hit the nail on the head, Nick. You don't want to just take a piece of content and just broadcast it on every channel. The users are different, and you don't need to do a deep dive on really understanding the mindset of each YouTube user, of each Facebook user, but they're slightly different. And I think when you create content that is um, a little more intentional for that user or for
Mm,
that platform, it becomes stickier. And, yeah, there's a case for if it's just fluff content to get it out. I'm not saying that you should always do that, but like sometimes it's better to have something on your profile than to go 2, 3 weeks with nothing there. Because if someone's clicking and if someone's researching and they go to your page and the last, you know, update or anything was from August 2nd, almost 2 months from the date I'm looking, it's kind of like, all right, maybe they're asleep at the wheel. Does that matter
Yeah.
when I'm researching a specialty service provider? Probably not. But does it register in my mindset of like, does it make me want to run and call them right
Mhm.
now? It's like when someone is keeping all of their stuff current, it's like, okay, they're involved, they're with it. And, to get Jessica involved in this, when I pick up the phone and I call them, if all their stuff is current, I'm expecting a certain type of experience
mm,
when I pick up the phone. Now, the best ones are the ones that can deliver on the promise that all of their marketing makes
Amen.
when I pick up the phone and not letting me get off the phone until not only do I have that consult booked,
Mhm.
but I'm like
I'm
really
excited.
excited. And I
Yeah.
feel like, oh my God, I'm so glad I called them. They were great. This is going to be great. It's going to decrease the no-shows. It's going to get patients to do their research and be compliant and show up ready for the consult instead of like, being flighty and flaky.
Yep.
that's so good. That's so good. So, I'm going to plug a book. There's a book called Tribes by Seth Godin. We don't even use the term ICP anymore at my company. We just talk in terms of tribes.
Oh man,
So
I
that
gotta I
is
gotta adopt that. That's
Yeah,
pretty
so
cool.
think in terms of your tribe. Who is, and you want to lead the tribe. You want to be an active voice for your tribe. And so when we talk about social media or your blog or any content whatsoever, you want to add value. So don't just do derivative content, just like anything I can look up on Wikipedia. You want to like, hey, this community, what adds value to them? So add value, do it consistently, and it is social media at the end of the day. So have fun with it. Make it enjoyable. So don't take the social out of social media.
I
So
love that.
yeah, yeah, and no one cares about you going to a conference. I'm just going to say that, right? So like that's what you're posting. Happy Thanksgiving. Like nobody cares. That is adding zero value to me in the tribe. I want to know about the service that I'm going to get from you and how that's going to be great. So like that is really the intent of it. I think we get caught up in the wrong intent of our content sometimes. Social isn't something just to post for no reason.
But Nick, to go a little further into the tribe, thing, uh, I think that anybody who markets themselves or their business needs to really understand who their tribe is, not just
Mhm.
who they are right now, like based on your EMR and what type of patients you have
Yes.
in your system, but who you are looking for specifically. And I hear this all the time when it's like, okay, so who's your ideal patient? Oh, we'll treat anyone with this, and it's like, no, no, but who's your ideal? Like, who are you looking for? Who are
Yep.
you best suited to serve? Oh, you do regenerative medicine, non-surgical pain relief for arthritis. Okay, so you need to be talking to people ages 32 to 60 who have active lifestyles and former athletes or who are purchasing like, sports equipment, play golf, yoga, Pilates, CrossFit, that type of thing. So I think getting super crispy with who you want in your tribe is only going to help you as a business treat more of those patients that you can actually help, that it's like it scratches your itch of clinical satisfaction. And every provider, and I hate using that term provider, every practitioner has that strike zone where they're like,
Yep.
oh, I love these patients. They're the ones that I
Yeah.
can really
Yep.
help the most. And I love working with them because I cut whatever their why is and how it relates. I feel like it's okay to get picky.
Yep.
And this is
Uh,
where you should be real picky.
And I'll add too, we have conversations with our clients, like not all leads are the same. That just because you can pump a bunch of like, oh, people know my brand, people are now all of a sudden picking up the phone. I care Sherpa, I do not be your garbage person, that you are spending money by having me sort through 250 leads because you turned on, some initiative that brought in folks who have no real intent to move forward, are not, to your point, Seth, are not your ideal target, or even, let's be honest, you're not ideal payer either. And so all of this, what Nick said previously, and this, keeping that mindset of, do I have my persona? Do I understand who is my ideal conversion factor? And then how am I writing the content? How am I doing my and AGEO optimization aligned to who they are?
No, 100%.
Totally.
Just to put a cherry on top of this Sunday right here is that um, we said a lot like, oh, you're just trying to sell me services. Yes, I'm trying to sell you services, but you can do this yourself. The idea is like pick one topic a month
Go for it.
and then
Yep.
make it travel, right? You don't have to write every different topic every day, right? And so the idea is like if you picked a really good blog, I want to write a really definitive guide on this, then it's like Thanksgiving dinner. Just take some of the sides off and then reuse that content other places. So it doesn't have to be as overwhelming as trying to eat the whole car at once. Just start with the bumper. All right.
Sounds like a terrible Thanksgiving dinner.
That's
I'm
a
not coming. I'm not
terrible
coming to your
no more
Thanksgiving.
analogies like that.
It's so crunchy.
Okay, big change. Number 3, disruption. Every month there are 5.4 million new web pages. Why is that? So I mean that's close to 200,000 new web pages a day. And why is that? It's because we're able to write novels now in like minutes on ChatGPT. Everyone and their mother now can write content. And so what is given rise to this term AI slop? I don't know if you, Jessica, Seth, have you heard that already?
Yes,
Well,
Like,
I love
it's
it. It's so true. And since I learned that phrase, I can spot it. I can
yeah,
see
you can
it.
spot
I'm
it.
like dialed in. Yeah.
It's got too many emojis. It's
oh
just
yeah, yeah, yeah.
is it bull?
The
It just
hyphens
looks like
everywhere.
it's
Yeah.
too perfect. Um, so funny. Resumes don't have grammatical errors anymore, right? All of a sudden, like it used to be like a thing now. So if we're writing with AI intent, the AI cannot write anything new. It's taking it's synthesizing in maybe new ways, but it's taking existing content and just repurposing it. And so if you're only going to be repurposing content, even our own content, it's going to get cannibalized in what we're calling the zero click environment. So I got the information I needed on ChatGPT. I never actually transacted over on the provider's website, right? So we have to stay away from that. So derivative content, it's getting eaten, it's getting cannibalized. So the fix is Google from day one. This is that long-term outlook I was telling you about. Gave us this EEAT guidance, and it's 100% guaranteed to help you. It is the idea that it's a principle, but for each of these buckets, experience, expertise, authority, and trustworthiness, if we turn that into a program, if we make programmatic authority our goal using these principles, we're going to rank better.
Mhm.
We're going to rank better. So experience, show how you know firsthand. Expertise, demonstrate your knowledge and skill. Authority, establish your reputation as a trusted source. Not just you personally, but your website has this digital authority that you have to protect. What's linking to you? What do you say? How is it organized? And then your trustworthiness does it prove that your website is reliable and honest? Are you an honest broker? Are you saying right things? Are you citing sources? This is all really, really important. The unique part is what we don't use the term eat anymore. We say neat, and the N now stands for new. So if everything's derivative, this is the hard part of marketing. I'm sorry, y'all. This is where the second, this is where you do the extra rep in the weight room, right? This is the hard work. We have to come up with novel content. And so it doesn't have to just be new. It can be niche, right? So we are talking about the fan outs and the breakouts. That's super important. But some of the easiest things you can do is do expert commentary, like a good 2026 guide for dental care. That sort of idea that if you write the most definitive guide possible, that is helpful. And so that maybe that's a little derivative, but like if you are the go-to source for AI better than anything else that's out there, you have to look for those opportunities. Who's not writing commentary that's as in depth as what you can provide? The other part is surveys. It might be hard for local service providers, but the idea is like Survey is unique content, very apropos to your market. So most common sports injuries for golfers or a certain age group, your locale, these things go a long way and they travel. And the demonstrating your track record, no one can replicate your track record. They're your patients, they're your testimonials, they're your case studies. Um, you get to own those. No one's going to be able to replicate that. So if you're able to do that, that is going to be huge. If you could talk about price, no one seems to talk about price in healthcare. It's a huge opportunity.
You're gonna
Don't
get a
hide
lot of
behind your
credit for
price.
that. You're gonna get a
Yeah,
lot of
and
credit for
trust
that online. Yeah.
and save time for the folks at Care Sherpa who are handling your phone, not to get a bunch of tire kickers. Nick, can you do me a favor? Go back to the previous slide. I want to touch on something. All right. So your programmatic authority is just that. It's yours. And this is brand building 102. This is figuring out who you are uniquely positioned to treat and why, and what your expertise is, where your authority comes from through all of these things. And I think that so many, at least physicians and specialists, they open their doors and they practice medicine without kind of going inside and establishing their brand, who they are here to serve and treat, and why. Like, I think patients connect to people and the story. Real quickly, I have a client and he put out a post. He's a neurosurgeon, and he made a post about where he and his family like to the barbecue restaurant that they like. And at first, I was like, "What are you doing? Like, no, what is this?" And this is a couple years ago, before like we were really like had it down what we should be talking about, and uh, and I quickly changed my tune, because when you can remove the white coat and you can create access and a connection between a potential patient, like, I know that restaurant. I like that restaurant too. Oh, this is a real person. This is an actual human being who happens to like barbecue as well. I like and
Mm,
it's not like the end all be all of connection, but it shows like the reality of like, okay, this person is a specialist and they have the authority, but they're also a human being, and
They're approachable.
people, exactly. And I think once you can do that, patients tend to like become less anxious and lean into the solution, as opposed to like, whoa, I don't want to see a neurosurgeon because I'm definitely getting back surgery and I don't want back surgery, So I think that takes a lot of it away. But this, in its core, is branding.
Yep.
yeah, yeah. My dad always says, if you know who you are, you know what to do.
Mm.
I
If you
love
know who
that.
you are,
Yep.
and this is your competitive advantage, what you're really experienced at, what you really differentiate yourself with. Like you said, the patients I like serving because I have the best outcomes. You really have to lean into that. So there is a danger in marketing to go chase clicks or impressions, but that's not who you are. You're just chasing vapor. So knowing who you are and knowing what to do is so key, Seth. I'm glad you said that. So,
And
Jessica,
with your,
anything from you?
yeah, the next slide you had too, Nick, I would say an example. So in practice, what this looks like is going back to the example I shared of the hyper localized persona, right? So who's this person and, what are these things and how do we track them? So one of the ways that this is in action is we work with our clients to understand what is the compelling event, what is the trigger that made today the day that this person picked up the phone and said, I am looking for a solution, you have the solution. So if I understand that, right? So let's use the example of a fertility, example. So did they have a recent loss? Did they have a recent unsuccessful cycle? So they're looking for second opinions. Whatever that mindset is, we have to have that trigger moment. Then we can go and make sure our content appeals to those trigger moments that align with what you have here, which is, hey, here is our case study of women like you, with your condition and our success rate and aligned to that. But we find that understanding that consumer buying kind of trigger, that consumer buying part, like what kicks off the journey, guides you on fantastic content that will serve the rest of your downstream content well.
Well, I think that that consumer trigger is just going to be, the door that slams open. And as
If you're
long
there
as,
for it to answer it. Yeah.
if you're there to answer the door and have a whole slew of meaningful content that can answer this consumer, this future patient's questions.
Yep.
Sure, there's a frequency play here that that trigger moment is probably not going to be the I'm picking up a phone and I'm booking a consult. That trigger moment is going to start the research phase and
Exactly.
the anxiety phase and the wait phase and the frustration phase of that consumers go through before they even have a target of who they're going to pick up the phone and call, and they know why, right?
Mhm.
And I think a lot of it has to do with the information and the content they were able to find.
Yep.
Okay. At this point, you're like, the title of this was 5 things you can do. Where are my 5 things? Right. So I'm going to land the plane. Right. So I'm going to give you the 5 things. So here are the 5 tips for ranking for AI, and I don't just say AI. I would say for SEO as well, or SERPs. But the first is authoritative content. If you're an expert in your field, if you know who you are, you know how to communicate it well. So focus on case studies. Look at your references, reviews, how-tos. Blogging is not optional; it's mandatory. And if you want to blog videos, that is even better, right? Again, that just when we put those in the middle, I wouldn't put them on the top of the page because it kind of slows down the traction. But if we put it in the middle of the page, people will stop and they'll engage with your page. If you get consumers to stay on a page longer just through video alone, not
Yeah.
only are you training the AI models with your video, but you're actually getting them to stay on pages longer, and that's just highly engaging. So that's really good. The second one, write for NLP intent, natural language processing, right? So what does that mean? Well, these models, these LLMs, they're being trained to read like we do. So when I come onto a web page, I skim it. I skim it and I'm looking for sections and blocks. Each block should be self-explanatory. Why is that important? Well, like we talked before, those snippets, I shouldn't be referring to other parts of the page. It's not like a whole story. I want to read it like, hey, this block talks about this service and it does this and has this outcome and does this. Like it is all self-contained. AI loves that. It's skimming. It's skimming just like we skim. So make sure that your web pages are built for that. So things like FAQs are absolutely mandatory on all of our web pages. Third, off-page mentions. So this is your earned backlinks. I don't know if you know much about. I know this is not something that's talked about a lot, but this is a first principle of search. Larry Page, when he started Google, he came up with this concept that he noticed in research papers that all these research papers were referring to a foundational research paper. And that was the seminal research paper that everyone was referring to. You want to be that seminal research paper. You want other people coming to your content as a source. When Google sees this web of you being cited on other websites, either through PR or earn backlinks, guest post bloggings, or inserts of your website within a pertinent blog, that is major importance for SEO and for AI SEO. Well, I guess we want to call it. Um, the third, okay, develop author influence. You want internal influencers. We have doctors that can be celebrities online if we wanted them to. The idea is that you should have author pages for them. If you want to ghostwrite for them, fine. But what are they good at? What kind of authorship should they have? Should they have their own blog? They should have their own author page with their. So like you do that anyway. This is about Dr. So and so. Here's the articles and blogs that this person has written about. That is hugely important. So on all our blogs, all of our content, there should be a date and there should be an author. And
Yes.
the author should have credibility, right? So we're looking at the authority. The last one, like everyone's going to go to sleep on, but technical. Your website, like no one visits me on mobile. Yeah, they do. And even if they don't, Google thinks it's highly important. It needs to be organized, have architecture, it needs metadata, schema markup, blah blah blah, robot text, all of that stuff. Um, a firm could do that for you. It's worth the money just to do a one-time audit and just fix those things if you don't have a webmaster that you feel confident in. But like we could tell you really quick if your website's healthy or not.
Mhm.
So those are the 5 things I would say that immediately, if you could just fix and focus on these at a high level, those are the 5 things that I would love to leave with everybody. And that's it. Any other comments on this?
Two things. I was gonna say everything you highlight here, Nick. All of our friends following along at home, like you said, outside of maybe some of the technical, more advanced, geeky, nerdy things, right? But the beautiful thing, by the way, GPT can also help you learn some of those,
There you go.
right? But that aside, like every part of this is something that we're almost doing naturally, but now we're doing it with intent, right? So I'll give
Mhm.
you a quick example. Your right for natural language processing. We brought up FAQs, right? Your FAQ should not be price and then a drop down menu that then gives you price details, right? But literally, the language is how much does XY procedure cost? right? Then here's your answer all together. That's how the GPTs are going to be looking for that. And then again, your authority, you've demonstrated that, you've answered it. So it's just slight things that you probably already have a lot of this in the work that you're doing today. But now with Nick's kind of guide here and the things we've been talking about, just tweak it in a way that allows you to become more visible, more trustworthy.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you could try to figure out technical on your own, but I can look at YouTube and try and fix my car. I still bring it to a
Oh,
mechanic,
yeah,
right? So it's like
right.
you need a good technical person,
Right. You don't
and
like adventure? Well,
yeah,
you
no,
don't
I
like
don't.
adventure, Nick?
I like getting to places safely.
Yeah.
So
There it is.
Well, it's a good point, right? Because there's also, if you try to self-teach yourself, right, you're going to be losing a lot of daylight. And I think
yeah,
why Care Sherpa, why we wanted to host this series and why I'm bringing wonderful experts like Nick and Seth to the table is that there are things that you can do now to get ahead of your competition. And if you are on this webinar, you are already one step ahead of your competition by thinking about
totally.
this. So now make that foundational investment and then you can iterate on it. But like if you don't, right, you know, your credibility, your authority, your timeline, all that, you're losing daylight that's going to get you lost in the shuffle.
Yeah. Um, just a quick pitch for a service that Seth and I are partnering on. We are doing these game plans. We had an old game plan for SEO, but now we're doing it for AI plus SEO. At the end of the day, it's a full audit of your website, how you're presenting, how your content is being viewed by the internet and by the search engines and the LLMs. And so at the end of the day, we got these four buckets that we look at, but what I would point you to is like, what are your competitors doing? It's a zero sum game. Either
Yep.
you get the mention or they do.
Yep.
Either you get the number one spot on the SERP or they do. And there's no in between. It's completely binary. So the idea is like, what are they doing? How are they getting there? What are they spending? What channels are they marking on? We can give you that type of insight. And then at the end of the day is strategic guidance. You'll have a playbook. If you want to use a firm, great. If you want to implement those on a monthly basis, or if you just want to do it yourself, we can give that for you. So happy to talk to anybody who wants to do that. You talk to myself or to Seth about that. Um, and then if you want to find me and Seth, we did a podcast together. We were killing it. Jessica's going to do one. Hopefully, now I put her on the spot publicly that she needs to do
As she
a
has to.
podcast with
She
us.
has to. You can't say
She
Yeah.
no.
has to
Yeah.
now, right?
And pre-committed.
Yeah. Do you promise to do a podcast with me, Jessica?
Of course.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so it's locked in, folks. So be looking for that. But we talked about search list marketing with Seth. That was really fun. So the things that he's doing are very unique and another take on what we're doing here. But if you want to check him out or me out, we are available. But at the end of the day, we like to say at Sherpa, let's grow together. This is not something that we do. We have this saying here at Sherpa, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. We have a very long-term outlook, and we just want to add value to the community. So if we can help in any way, we would love to do that. So we did pretty good.
You
What,
did, yeah, right on
10
time.
minutes?
Yeah,
Okay.
and I'll kind of echo that too. I mean, why I asked Nick and Seth to come to the table, we have shared kind of thought leadership and also when it comes to these opportunities. So bringing that full circle, right? If you just start, right, have some kind of assessment, whether it be with Nick and friends or like just start somewhere and give you a baseline of where you are. And then we are happy to also help you with that consumer outlook, right? So now you understand, are you ranking? How are your competitors ranking? And then who's answering the phone and who's helping you along. But while we've been chatting, Nick and Seth, we had a couple of questions, and so we'll jump into those now. So just a reminder for all of our friends still following along at home, please submit any questions you have. We'd love to jump in and double click on things. The question you mentioned about the localization, and so I just wrote it down because I want to make sure I didn't miss it. So local is important, and then what are the ways that a practice should be thinking about local to future conditions in case SEI or excuse me, in case GPT start to pick up on local.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. So we don't know. Um, Google has tried putting local into Gemini a number of times, so we know it will happen, and we know that the UI will change. The user interface is going to change. So we haven't seen that yet. We've seen Perplexity come out with their own browser. We're expecting a new Chrome browser. We're expecting a ChatGPT browser. So we don't know. As it is right now, the four box is what we like to call it. If those first four results on that map on something near me, those are super important. And you could pay to be in those, but also it's driven by your reviews. So your Google My Business. There are 10 citations. There are 10 directories that you have to be on in local. You can look them up, but they are things like Yelp. The most important thing I could tell anybody for local right now is to make sure all of those directories are filled out accurately and cleanly.
Mm-hmm.
If
And
the phone number's
consistently
different,
across
Yes.
the,
yeah,
yeah,
consistently.
yeah,
If
right.
they have the phone number's different, if the
Yep.
website's different, if it's directed to
Mhm.
like that is like
The killer for
easy,
your business.
easy,
Yeah.
low hanging fruit that you can make sure
Yeah.
that you catch. So I would focus first there on those. What chat does for local, it's in their sites, it's going to change. But the idea is it's still going to come back to first principles. What are your reviews? Where are you located? And so a lot of what we're doing now in terms of SEO for local is still going to apply. I think for you're going to be in a safe bet. What we find people are getting damaged now in this new world are the ones that weren't doing SEO before, who weren't doing consistent content. So when the AI came around, they got punished. So people that were doing SEO well for the last 5, 10 years are the ones that are able to make the adjustment much easier.
We've been spending some time with our partners, and I want to just also emphasize for everyone, and we're going to have a future guest talking about this further. Like, how do I start to measure, right, my performance over time? So if you haven't done it today, when you hang up off this webinar, like do that first thing. Just say, who is the best, XYZ provider in my city, whatever that is. That will be the most telling for you of, and again, the beautiful thing using GPT as an example, you hit the source button, and that'll tell you immediately how is your competitor ranking above you. Well, I'll promise you, they probably their WebMD listings, right? They probably claim their, Google listings. They've, like you said, they've caught their Yelp. They've had some positive comments. That'll give you the tell right away. Start there, measure where do I rank, and then work on, as you said, Nick. None of this is predefined. None of this is absolutely certainty, but you can start testing things, and we've seen this with subtle differences like driving reviews. We have client partners focus on getting more consistent reviews. It changes your score and your ranking.
That's so good. Like type in your practice, type in your name. What does ChatGPT know about you?
Mm-hmm.
And it gives you the
If there's
roadmap.
anything that's,
It
yeah, I
gives
mean,
you
if
the map
anything's
to follow to
inaccurate, it's
fix it.
because you told it that. If you
Yep.
told it that, if you don't like certain information, you got to figure out where that source data is and remove it.
Yeah.
Or you have to educate it. Remember, it's pre-training and post-training.
Yeah.
So you have to keep that in mind.
Kind of little left center, but it's kind of it came in the chat too. The question was, has anyone thought about how LLMs are relating to recruitment marketing? So obviously there's a tough labor market for healthcare, right? So thinking about how are candidates starting their search in LLMs within the healthcare market. Have you heard anything in that kind of category?
I haven't. We work with a number of recruiters. They don't seem to have much trouble getting noticed by the internet because they've been doing this type of SEO work forever. The shortage is more physical than digital, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how much is going to change on that. But we are seeing schools, recruiters getting a lot smarter and making it easier. Yeah, I haven't seen a big shift there. So, but yes, that's a great question.
Another question was, we talked about the social media and we talked about Reddit, but can you share a little bit more about the YouTube and what we need to be thinking about for YouTube optimization for GPTs?
Yeah, so the second largest search engine in the world
Mhm.
is YouTube. It's owned by the largest search engine in the world.
Again, whose game is it we're playing? Yeah. Yep.
Right.
Yeah. So like people are
Coincidence.
using YouTube as their new Google, right? So if they're looking for content, they're looking for specific questions. They'd rather watch a video or something engaging, and they're skimming videos. And the way the videos are now with tags, there's a huge play in SEO, just the way that we describe the videos
Yep.
and the headlines and the things
Yes.
that we use. You should be thinking about that well. Um, it doesn't have to be that professional. I
Yep.
think people worry about how professional it needs to be. I mean, some of our best stuff I get really upset. We'll pay and we'll do cameras and everything, but then it's just me with my kids with my phone. I mean,
It's
that's
the
like it's
authenticity, right? Think about what the consumers are drawn to. And we see that with provider videos. Seth mentioned that earlier, right? The video talking about his barbecue. The patient consumers, they want to know that, again, take off the white coat. You're human. I can trust you. I have confidence in you because you're someone that I can approach. And so you're spot on, Nick. We see the same thing with those are the ones that are the most performant for our client partners. The
mm,
interesting thing I've seen, and maybe you can add to it too, is that I've seen where they've done the big video session. And so that's out there when we talk about, like, here's the treatment we do for uterine fibroids, let's say, right?
mhm.
But then taking those sub segments and pulling out little 30-second snippets, tagging them appropriately, putting the right title to them and the description, that's where it seems to then jump further, right? So again, we talked about making it hyper specific. So during the video, did they talk about African American women and uterine fibroids and within this condition? Boom, there's your 30-second snippet that then helps you present in the GPT.
100%. That's
Yeah,
so good.
love
That's
it.
so good. Yeah, I think people are afraid of video. It doesn't need to be overwhelming. It's great. It's something that you should be doing. It just helps.
And not just for recognizing and categorizing, but as a trust trigger, right?
Hmm.
Like I can read
Yes.
anything and it's like fine, but when I hear you telling me and it feels like you're speaking to me because you understand what I'm going through or dealing with from a pain perspective, and that you're telling me that you deal with this before and you could possibly help me too, like that's just a warm blanket,
Yeah.
right? and
Yeah, there
and,
you go.
and copy does not connect like that.
No, 100%. Well, friends, I hate to say it, but it looks like we are at our time. I would love to just remind all of our partners that have followed along. Seth and I and Nick are active on LinkedIn. We'd love to connect with you there, and we're continuing to share as we geek out on this topic. So, and again, you got to follow Seth's LinkedIn because the mustache speaks for itself. But we appreciate you spending the time with us. Next month, our topic, we're going to keep this train going with everything GPT optimization. We're going to dive deeper into human focused content. And so again, as you've gotten a sense of all these experts I brought to the room, just keep building on it. We want to provide you with tools and resources that you can truly use to help your practice grow. So thank you everyone for joining us. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day.